Welcoming you all back to the GST session on GST. Today, let us see the GST registration process. We will see the criteria, how do we register, and what's the procedure of registration, all of it. And one thing all of us should understand is that the registration of GST, it is not mandatory for every business. Yes, GST registration, it is not mandated, but if you prefer as a business, if you opt for GST registration, yes, you can go ahead and do it. So, and if you're making profit or the sales in crores and crores, do you think that the GST authority would say, no, it is not mandatory for your business to register? No. So, up to certain limit, they have given exemption where it is not mandatory for a business to register. But after a certain limit, it becomes mandatory for a business to register under GST. So today we will see when does it become mandatory for a business to register under GST. So if we see the eligibility criteria, to be eligible for GST registration, you must meet certain criteria that are defined under the GST Act. So let us see what are those criteria. First and foremost criteria is that aggregate turnover is considered. So what is this aggregate turnover? So aggregate turnover is defined as the sum of all your taxable supplies, your exempted supplies, your interstate supplies, and your exports. And that is calculated throughout India on the PAN basis. Depending on your PAN card number, the aggregate turnover would be calculated. And when this aggregate turnover is exceeding 40 lakhs, if you're dealing with goods and if you're in normal category states, then it becomes mandatory for you to register under GST. And if your aggregate turnover is more than 20 lakhs and you deal with goods and your business is located in special category states, then also it becomes mandatory for your business to register under GST. And if you're dealing with services, this aggregate turnover slightly changes a bit. Yes. If your aggregate turnover is more than 20 lakhs in case of normal category states, your service business should register under GST. And if your aggregate turnover is more than 10 lakhs in the normal special category states, then again it becomes mandatory for you to register under GST. And if you are entering into interstate supply, then again it becomes mandatory for you to register under GST. So by the term interstate, you can understand that the supplier is from one state and the recipient is from another state. Let's take an example where the supplier is from Bangalore, Karnataka and the recipient is from Chennai, Tamil Nadu. So now the supplier would transfer the goods to the recipient in Chennai. So now the goods are being transported from the state of Karnataka to the state of Tamil Nadu. So when the transaction is between two states, it is called as interstate supply. In case of interstate supply, again it becomes mandatory for you to register under GST. Then casual taxable person. If any individual is registering their business as casual taxable person, then they have to register under GST. There is no certain limit. If you are opting under casual taxable person, then you should register. So who is this casual taxable person? The one who is not intended to do business for a longer term. Yes, just for a shorter period of time when they start doing the business, they have to register themselves as casual taxable person. Next is non-resident taxable person. So non-resident taxable person are the individuals who are non-resident but they start supplying in India, then it becomes mandatory for them to register under GST. And e-commerce operators, the operators as we know Amazon, Flipkart, all these kind of e-commerce operators, again it is mandatory for them to register under GST. And input service distributor should also register under GST. So why do they register as input service distributor? It is to apportion the input tax credit between the branches or other offices. So a business has to register its ISD to apportion the input tax credit. Then the person who are liable to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. Now again, reverse charge mechanism is a concept where we can understand that the supplier is not registered under GST. So, and the recipient is registered under GST. For example, let's take an example where the supplier is an agriculturalist and the recipient is a giant manufacturer who already has GST registration. In this case, the supplier would not be paying GST because he is an agriculturalist and it is not mandatory for an agriculturalist to register under GST. But whereas the recipient is a registered person and he will collect GST from his customer, and the product is also taxable under tax, so under GST, so they will register as under reverse charge mechanism. Hope you understood these concepts. Thank you.